Let's start talking about time travel and its paradoxes. First, we have the grandfather paradox. Is time travel just a story, or could it be real?
When I think of the grandfather paradox, I see it as a loop. Imagine you go back in time and stop your grandfather from meeting your grandmother. Then, you won't exist to go back in time. It's a big problem that makes us think about cause and effect.
That's true, Guy, but think about it from a quantum view. Some ideas say time travel could make new timelines. Maybe you still exist, but in a different timeline. It's like taking another path in a maze.
Interesting points, both of you. But if alternate timelines are real or not, the ethical questions are important. Imagine changing big events in history. Could it cause chaos, or maybe lead to a better future? Changing some bad events might stop us from learning from them.
That's a real concern, Sonia. The idea of keeping history the same versus changing it is interesting. We always ask if these changes would be better or worse for today. I think of the butterfly effect, where small changes can have big effects.
The ideas show how complex time travel paradoxes are. As we go deeper, let's think if science today can make fiction real. What new technologies could change our view on what's possible now? We just talked about the paradoxes. Now, let's see how time travel is shown in sci-fi and how real it could be. Can what we see in movies and books become real?
Sci-fi gives us wild ideas like time machines or wormholes. It makes us think about what if. For example, H.G. Wells' time machine lets us dream about a future with time paths. It's exciting but makes us ask, what is fantasy and what can science do?
You're right there. But science is also close. Einstein's relativity suggests possibilities time changes with speed or gravity. It may sound like sci-fi, but it's real science. The idea of traveling forward by going near light speed is not just a story, it's based on real theories.
That's interesting, Ryan. But even with relativity, we face problems. Our tech can't go fast enough for that kind of time travel. Plus, it needs a lot of energy. Our problem isn't just science, but also the limits of what we can do now. We have the plan, but not the way to do it.
Great points. How can quantum mechanics change what we think? Could quantum theory change how we see time beyond just speed and gravity?
I think quantum mechanics is like a surprise element. Ideas like quantum entanglement show particles affecting each other instantly, no matter the distance. It makes us dream of instant travel or talking through time. It's still theory, but it makes us think of time as not just linear, maybe allowing time travel.
Plus, quantum physics might connect different timelines. The many worlds idea says each choice creates new universes, making every sci-fi story possible somewhere. It's exciting and puzzling. Could every what if really happen in these universes?
True, but we must be careful mixing science and sci-fi. The risk is believing sci-fi stories without real science. These ideas inspire but need doubt. Until we learn more and tech improves, we are mostly exploring ideas, not time.
It's an important talk. How do we deal with these ideas if they become real? Let's talk about how we might get ready for the new responsibilities these changes could bring. Let's look into the old attempts at changing time. It mixes fiction and reality. From old writings to science ideas, has our view of time travel changed over time and in different cultures?
Looking at history's attempts is like seeing our big dreams and fears. Old myths talked about gods or things that could change time, like the Hindu idea of Kal Chakra or the Greek god Kronos. Even back then, we thought of bending time. It makes me wonder if these were just stories or somewhat true.
That's true, Guy. Think about modern times and scientists like Nikola Tesla. His ideas on time travel excited people. Tesla's work with electromagnetic fields made people talk about time changing. True or not, these stories show our drive to go beyond time limits.
It's interesting how these old figures mix with today's sci-fi. I remember reading about John Titor, a claimed time traveler from 2036. Many think it's fake, but his story shows how old attempts fuel new legends. It mixes what might be possible and what is just fantasy.
Yes, Sonia, and it's interesting how these stories shape popular culture. Think about how Einstein's theories changed sci-fi. The idea that time is relative gave a base for science in many sci-fi stories. It shows how science and fiction help each other.
Agreed, but we also need to be realistic. History is full of tries to change time, but our tech limits keep us grounded. Scientific tries like the Philadelphia experiment are still full of doubt. The line between fact and fiction is thin, but we should think critically.
The cultural impact is clear. Different cultures, like the old Chinese story of the peach of immortality or the quest of European alchemists, show a desire to control time. These stories show our wish to understand or change life's shortness.
These views from history and myth shape how we understand today. How will these ideas guide us as we balance fiction and science in the future? When we think about the ethics of time travel, we must think about changing history. If we could change the past, what duties and results might we face? This talk has not just science, but also a deep thought about right and wrong.
Changing history feels like a big responsibility. Think about going back to stop a dictator before their rise. We might save lives, but it could change a timeline that helped with rights and technology. It's like a moral chess game with endless options.
Yes, Guy. It's like taking out a piece from a Jenga tower. You might make it steady for a bit, but the whole thing might fall if you're not careful. Every move is risky, especially when we don't fully understand how history is linked.
Let's also think about culture. Changing events might erase the stories and identities made by those events. For many, history is about learning and being strong. We might lose that if we change the past without understanding. Is an easy past better than a history that made us who we are?
That's right, Sonia. But what if changes could stop big disasters without losing cultural identity? It's like changing one note in music to keep it nice, small, but big. Maybe we still need to grow to handle this responsibly.
I like your example, Guy, but even small changes can have big effects. Like changing the Vietnam War's outcome, this might stop harm, but pause big social changes it brought. History often repeats, making these actions very complex.
And we must also think about personal stories. If we change personal history, does it change who we are? If our past makes us changing, it might erase personal growth. Time travel isn't just about changing history, it's about changing human stories.
Thinking about all of this, time travel needs us to understand the effects beyond what we see. Are we ready for this, or do we need more wisdom with scientific progress before we start? As we finish, let's talk about time travel's future. Could it become real or stay a part of science fiction? Are we close to understanding time, or is it just a dream we chase?
If time travel happens, it will change how we understand life. Imagine seeing history in person, like a book that opens up. But we must be ready for changes in society.
I agree, but we should think about the practical problems too. Science gives us the basics, like relativity and quantum mechanics. Turning theory into technology might be hard. We might see small steps, not big jumps.
Also, we must think about society's effects. If time travel changes political structures, it might increase inequalities or change norms. We need to study its effects globally.
Good point, Sonia. Balancing its use could be as hard as making the technology. Misuse might cause chaos in history. It's like having a powerful crystal ball, it might change our ethics.
Yes, ethics will be important. Misuse time travel might control people. It needs great responsibility and management worldwide.
Let's not forget personal privacy. Imagine travel is affecting or watching your future. It might change privacy rules if we aren't careful.
We could use time travel wisely as watchers of history, not changers. This way, we learn from the past without changing the future.
As we think about these big ideas, I wonder if this talk will help us find balance. Are we ready for this huge discovery? If we could, what time would each of us visit?